Hello everyone, and here we are. It's a Thursday night already, and it's past 7 p.m. here, and I just realized, you would not believe, I tried to record the video earlier, and there was a bit of traffic on the street. Something happened and the camera just, as I was in the middle of my explanation, the camera just dropped and fell over on the floor, and I'm like, oh, please tell me it's still in one piece. So anywho, lucky for me, lucky for the camera, it is all still in one piece, but I don't know how to edit videos, so here's me recording it again. And hopefully I'll do a better job now, and the camera sits very nice and steady on top of 4 books. So today still talking about buzzwords, but there's something that I came across last night, and I was hoping I could talk to you about another blend of buzzwords. And I'm sure you kind of hear around today a whole lot about self and self-knowledge, or self-awareness, or embodied self, or conceptual self. So I guess I'll just not that I am any sort of authority in the matter, but it does help us cope with things that are happening to us if we actually know what it is that we're hearing in all of these lovely, helpful meditations and programs and all sorts of little helps that are out there. We just seem to adopt particular language around ourselves and the self itself, to be a little bit pedantic here, but the idea is there's a difference between all of these terms. So I'm not going to say that I'm particularly smart or that I know in depth to practice all of them, not at all. That's not my point. My point is that it helps untangling the buzzwords. So let me start with a sideline kind of point, and bring back into conversation these notions of self-knowledge and self-awareness. There's something that I watched last night for some research that I was doing, and it was a TED talk of a particular famous doctor, and he was going on about neuroplasticity and what that is. And in the most simplistic terms, and how I understand it, is that our brain, with the parts that it is formed of, and he was basically explaining the 3 parts of the brain there, and how the newest part of our brain, the cortex, is all activity. It's all about neurons, networks, clusters. That there was a lovely phrase that he kept using, that fire together and wire together. So what he was basically saying is that the brain is the machine that analyzes all the information from our senses, has this real time, real life capacity of transforming that information into thoughts, and that our mind, a very sophisticated talk, rather, well, not that long but made short, the thoughts that create our mind, our inner voice, the part that the brain can hardly differentiate between is the reality of what happens. So where the brain cannot distinguish between where is that information coming from. Is it actually happening to us in real time, or is something that we are imagining? And the simplistic way of imagining it is, for example, fear. And he used a rather funny example there, as in someone that doesn't like their mother-in-law. Not all of them are scary, but some of them are. And the example there around fear, it was pretty much that what happens in the brain of someone that is again about to spend time with their mother-in-law, and they have a fear of the person, pretty much their mind manages the thought of the mother-in-law. It's already embedded in particular networks of neurons that will fire together again because they've been wired together by previous experiences with the mother-in-law. So basically repetition makes networks. Repetition may trigger particular thoughts and particular reactions in our mind. So, and this is where the, mind you, this is a little bit sidelined and side topic, but this is why people that have anxiety or depression or suffer of some sort of such disorder, because of the frequency on how they manage to continue thinking negatively or about negative emotions, they seem to perpetuate or stay stuck in that frame of mind. And that stupid buzz word expression with think positively usually is not something that can happen very easily for someone in that condition. Anyway, my point is that the brain, the mind, as I alluded to some other videos as well, can actually play tricks on us, because it cannot distinguish between real-time information, real-time sensory information, or perceived or a product of our imagination information. And again, this is where we gave the example with the fear. So what does that have to do with self-knowledge, or the concept of self-awareness? And in one of the material that I am actually studying at this point in time, it talks about self-knowledge, and it's pretty much what we acquire and what we learn about us. It's merely anything and everything that we store inside. We learned it. We did not we did not arrive with it. So we acquire knowledge by learning and practice, and a few other theories around it. But self-knowledge is being able to identify and know about yourself in terms of concepts and using references that you'd be able to articulate, if you'd like. Self-awareness, on the other hand, is the ability to step outside, like the ability for us to observe our own flow or our own being, and our own reactions and our own emotions. So awareness is more or less about noticing and observing. And the funny thing about humans and human nature is that we do have that ability of us noticing and observing ourselves. Yeah, so we have that ability to detach, observe, and come up with all sorts of explanations. So self-awareness in itself, it can be self-awareness in itself, it can be categorized in two different, it is of two different types. And the famous clever people that I'm studying and learning about, they look at self-awareness in the sense of conceptual and embodied. So conceptual is all about learn concepts, and it's anything that we think about ourselves that can be articulated with language, right? So I think I am a friendly person. That's friendly, being friendly, it is a concept in itself. We need language to interpret and understand and label what friendliness is. And the fact that I think of myself that way, it's well and truly an example of conceptual self-awareness. I'm not going to dwell more onto that. The part that I was getting into, is about the embodied self-awareness, as in awareness, the attention, the noticing and the observing of the self within our bodies. So we don't need, in this case, embodied self-awareness is not so much about using language or concepts. It's more or less about feelings and experiences that just happen. And I'm not going to use fear or the mother-in-law in this particular instance, but think of it this way. You hear something, you find it funny, and the conceptual self-awareness is that you've got a sense of humor, whereas the embodied self-awareness is that you smile, your face muscles shape up that smile, the whole demeanor sort of opens up, and for some reason you actually feel in in a good mood. Yeah, so there's a difference between the concept of having humor and laughing at a joke and the actual smile and what your body does. And similarly, you watch a movie and you know you're not in it, and you know it's not for real, and you know it's a movie, and yet when he says to her, "I love you from the bottom of my heart," then your tears go down, or you feel somehow fuzzy inside, or whatever it is that you do and your body feels when there's something moving, or moving in the sense of moving you to tears. Yeah. So that's where I was getting with this, that believe it or not, each and every one of us are so unique in the sense of not so much how much we know ourselves or how much we can articulate about ourselves and our knowledge, but in the sense of us being aware of our mind and of our experiences and expressions, and the way our body interprets everything around us. Not just everything around us, but everything that happens here. So my closing argument, don't be so hard on yourself, don't judge yourself, give yourself space to breathe, have a pep talk with that mind of yours, and contradict it sometimes and just say, you know what, I may be scared or I may be crying, but I'm not a baby, so I'd like to know why I react like this, and it's only a thought and it's not for real, and I'd like to know why. So in a sense, it is about observing yourself, but in the same time reflect on yourself and question yourself. Why did you react like that? Why you said that nasty comment to that dude or that dudette? Talk to yourself. You might like it. You might find out things you never even gave them a second thought. And apparently by learning is the one experience that makes us change, because in the end of the day, learning is only repetition or practice of something new. And if that something new is, I don't know, buying yourself flowers because they look pretty, or having a yummy dinner because you feel like it, and it doesn't matter if it's Thursday night, who cares? Just treat yourself from time to time. Be nice to yourself. Question yourself. Why stick with patterns that are not useful anymore? Fire and wire that brain and make it work in your favor. That's all from me for today. I'm Gabriela, and thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow. And the best news about tomorrow, it's Friday.